Welcome to the Devils Podcast. I'm HeYamin.
And I'm Andromeda.
And today we are talking about underworld journeying and meditative journeying stuff.
Shamanic journey?
Or shamanic journeying.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing because I've heard of people talk about it as Neil Goddard style of meditative journeying where you're just, it's visualization practice.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's shamanic journeying, which is more usually drug related. And then it's not. And then there's
Well, I don't think it always is.
underworld journeying.
Yeah.
Which is also shamanic journeying. But I think shamanic journeying is usually for a purpose. Mm-hmm. But I mean, what meditative journeying isn't for a purpose? I think it's just blurred lines between concepts and how you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
What you want to talk about?
Well, I don't know if I should start off the discussion or do you want me to start it off?
Sure.
Okay. Well, I can talk about my own how I delved into it and what I do.
Mm.
So for me personally, I started doing underworld journeying several years ago, and what sparked it is I was working with Santa Muerte, and I had been reading a series of different books by different authors. One of them was Erica Buenaflor, and she has a really good book on. I'll have to look up the actual book. She has a series. I'm not going to look it up. It's going to take a long time. She has a series of books on her own practice. But she talks about the different levels of the underworld. And there's another author. I'm not going to mention the name because they're a little bit controversial, I guess. And I really liked how this other author creates the environment. So for me personally, when I do underworld journeying, I have a specific talisman that I've created and that I carry with me from the physical into the astral, into the spirit world. And I usually will do it in a completely darkened room with a candle. And the candle is my guide from... it allows me to drop down, and then I can see it to bring myself back. And something that I've always found interesting is that there are different areas. When I do my journeyings, I will be guided to go to specific areas. I'll pass through different spaces, and it's actually really beautiful for me because I see it as a very... there's a lot of black and white. It's not really sepia. It's more of like a grayscale. But there's color as well. There's a space I visit regularly that has wheat fields, and the wheat is very, very vibrant, almost a burnt sienna color. And there's different fruit trees. I haven't seen many, but there's different trees with fruit on them, and the fruit is very vivid, rich, almost like pomegranate juice. When you smear it out, that's the color I see. And just these different spaces have very distinct colors associated with them. I think it's very interesting, me personally.
Mm-hmm. I mean, most of my current work in meditation, or when I'm journeying, I mean, all my meditation is working with beings, working with energies, working with places. I can't really go into it, but prior to what I've been doing for the past few years, when I was doing shamanic work, when I was doing, not saying I'm not now, but when I was doing it to the extent of like my meditative work prior, like underworld stuff, um, like it was, I mean, it wasn't basic, but it was, I'd go to places and I'd explore, um, find information that I could, um, and it's not like it's never really been astral for me, even though it's astral in a way. I don't leave my body, um, and I've never been able to just leave my body. I've had dreams where it's like things have happened where it's like, oh, I'm in space, or I'm in, I when I was doing uh, runic work, connecting to the currents of the runes, and I was doing a nightly practice of going through the Futhark, and I would envision them and go through them in the way that you do when you're connecting to the currents, and kind of my own way of doing it. And it's so weird. I had this being, I couldn't see them, but they had grabbed my head and they had turned it, and I was in bed, and they were holding my head, and they were showing me myself in the bed, not out of my body. And I was looking at my girlfriend, and I was trying to grab her and wake her up. And I was like, why can't I wake her up? And I'm like smacking at her. So, and the being didn't say anything. And then all of a sudden they ripped me out of my body, and I was floating in space, like just deep space. There was this giant ring that was all of the Futhark glowing in space, and it was like a portal. I was like, amazing. It was just amazing. Um, but I don't really do that kind of stuff often where it's like, oh, I'm leaving my body. It's all internal. Like I'm going deeper within myself. Um, is probably the best way to describe it. And I've had someone try to teach me how to leave my body, and we're going through the meditation and we're doing this stuff. And he's like, okay, we're out of our bodies now. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Still in my body. And he was like, he could see me going around and doing stuff. I'm like, I'm not out of my body. I'm still in my body. As far as I know, that's what it seemed like. He seemed to think he had got me out of my body when I hadn't. But when, like, an astral projection is a completely separate thing to that type of work. Like, and, now with my draconian work and, for the past few years, and then, like my meditative work that I do when I'm doing tree work, or I'm doing, like my regular daily meditation, sometimes hourly meditation. It's like, it's not the same as what I was doing before. Like when I do energy work, I'm not, it's not just energy work. It's like they've all these different things have melded into the same experience. It's an opening of the psychic pathways. And I'm not just like, how do I put it? It's not the same. Like, like I go into places and I go to meet with people and I go to do this, this thing, that thing, the other thing. And I don't really want to go into depth into what I do, but, it's changing the physical body, changing the spiritual body, changing the astral body, and going into places to do work or to work with the energies of that place. Yeah, and but underworld journeying is like, I mean, it's very similar to what I do now, but it's not. It's not like you go through all the steps of disassembling your body, and it because well, I should probably explain it. You know, when you go into an underworld journey, most people say you rip off all your skin, you pull out your muscles, you know, out of your body. You're taking apart your body, breaking it down, destroying it, setting it on fire, destroying the bones. And I used to do that all the time. And at first, it's like, oh, that's terrifying. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's terrifying to be like, oh, I'm destroying my body. And then it's like, well, once you destroy your body, it's like you realize, oh, I'm not any of that here. You know, I still can act and not have any form that I'm acting from within. Um, and you journey downwards, you know, into the earth. When I used to do shamanic journeys, I would go to the mouth of a cave or a, sometimes a doorway, and I would have a guide, whether they be a bear or another type, a wolf or something, or a person, and they would take me to the end of the maze if I was doing that kind of thing inside the cave or the doorway. They would take me through the caverns or the rooms and take me to a place where I would talk to someone or get the knowledge or read the knowledge or what have you. And that was a normal shamanic journey for me for a long time. Or it would be like going to as much nature as possible, like going into nature in my meditation. And I know a lot of people use drugs for that kind of stuff. Like when you look at like what people call shamanic journeys and what in the modern day what they're really doing is they're doing drugs and tripping the fuck out. You know, like it's not for most
I
people
mean, it
that's
was
what
a
they're
valid
doing.
part of shamanic journeying,
Yeah.
especially within particular cultures, is that they would have a period of training and then they would use particular plants in order to allow themselves to go into that space. And I feel it can still be valid, but at some point there is, especially in modern spaces, I feel like it can be misused.
No, it is. It's not it can. It is. I mean, in the Western world, people think they think the journey is the drug. It's like, oh, you take the drug, you know what, buy the ticket, take the ride, or whatever the saying used to be. But it's not. And I'm not trying to get on a soapbox here. I've seen so many people be like, oh, I'm a shamanic traveler, and it's like, no, you're just a drug addict. You know. And there's nothing wrong with, well, there is something wrong with being a drug addict, but there's nothing wrong with, you know, the way people get their spirituality, except for the fact unless it's like harmful to themselves or others. um, but that's just my, you don't need the drug. People can teach you how to have the experience without the drug. That's the whole thing that I get on, because I've seen so many people have like problems with drug use or be misguided because their teacher showed them drugs, or you know, whatever, you know. It's um, drugs are usually used as a method of control, not a method of actually opening up your abilities. If you're just, you know, it's like giving someone a fish, a hallucinogenic fish, instead of teaching them how to fish out of non-hallucinogenic waters. So, and I'm not. I get that different people need different things, and there's nothing wrong with plant medicine, but I think it's been so westernized that it's just, you know, you use the drug to get the experience, and yeah, it's a potent experience. But what's the line between uh, a hallucination and the real thing? You know.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think if, especially in the past and in certain spaces, it was very valid. But I do feel like, I mean, there's so many reports nowadays that I've seen of people just using these drugs to take advantage of people. So yeah, I can understand that aspect. But I personally use Blue Lotus tincture when I want to do like a journey through dream work. So I can't I can't say I absolutely don't use that stuff, but I don't go to the excess of like overuse, and it is something that I do try to be very careful of. I think it's funny because I talked about how I started working with Santa Muerte and then I started the underworld journeying, but I completely forgot that when I was in my 20s, I had a series of visitations by a being who later on became a spirit guide, but at the time I was absolutely terrified of them. Um, I would have these dreams where I was journeying into the underworld, and I was crossing spirits over, and then I would wake up, and this man, I believe the term uses hat man or a shadow person, and I mean this is often people talk about this being with the hat and the coat that steps into their room, or they wake up and they're paralyzed. But in my case, I would wake up and he would be there, and I would be able to move, and I'd be watching him, and my light was just far enough that I had to like step out of bed to reach the light switch, and it's always interesting to me because I'd be watching him, and I like try so hard to keep my eyes on him. I would have to turn my head to actually find my switch and turn my light on, turn around, he'd be gone. Just if I took my eyes off him, he'd be gone. But at the time I was like, this is a demon, it's the devil, he's coming for me. Mm-hmm. And then like I blocked him out eventually. After about a month of these like almost nightly visitations, I blocked him out. And in my 30s was when I started being like, oh wait, like he wasn't he showed up to a friend, and this friend was like, there's this being that like wants to work with you, and they say that you've blocked them, but you need to work with them. And that's when I was like, oh wait, like this isn't as scary as I thought it was. Actually, this being is a guide. I often, when I've done underworld journeyings in my dreams, and when I do it physically, they are there. And if they aren't there, it's I rely on them to in some cases. And I think that is a common factor for a lot of people, that there is a being that does show up for them when they're doing these journeys, whether it's animal or human. And I think the myth of the Hat Man sprung out of the fear and separation from those practices, because if some being is visiting you in that capacity, I believe that it's because they want to work with you, or you're meant to work together. There's some type of bond there, and instead of being afraid of them, you should try to figure out what it is, and how you can work with them, instead of the common practice of like, oh my god, it's an evil being, come to drag me to hell.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's funny because I didn't even think about touching on the subject until you were talking about that. Like when you look at like what the underworld was when, in the times of like the Mesopotamians and pre like Greco-Roman and basically the Assyrian and Mesopotamian era. It's interesting because when you look at like what were they talking about when they were talking about the underworld? And the underworld was the untouchable darkness that covered the planet. And every night, everyone went into the underworld. Well, they all were going to sleep, or they were meditating, as they would say in the Bible. The upright, the people who were meditating all night, who were journeying through the underworld. and it's not like upright could. I know a lot of people take it as, oh, it's the people who are doing the right thing. No, it means the people who stay up all night meditating. It's the people who are journeying through the underworld, and it's the people that are moving through the spaces, going deeper into the subconscious, because that's what the underworld, I mean, technically what we're thinking of when we're thinking of underworld things, we're thinking of the the unconscious parts of the self that are connected to the collective, or you know, the spaces within, or the universe, or what have you, because we're all drawing off the same sources. um, but as the darkness would pass over the night, you know, the darkness would pass over the world in the night, you know, there was no escaping it. You could have your torches lit, you could, you know, whatever, you know, the lights are on, but we kind of lose sight of that in the Western world because of all the light pollution, all the stuff, and even in, you know, most of the world, it's not, you don't see the underworld like you would back then.
Yeah.
And even like in some places in the world, you still get that, but it was this, and it wasn't something that people feared. It wasn't until, like, you know, Christianity that people were afraid of this stuff. Um, when when the Abrahamic religions came through, and they were like, "Fear the night," you know. And it's you know, Lilith's Mesopotamian name is, as Mark says, is Moonwind, you know, or Night. She of Night is the other name that they give her, and it's because of the fact that she is so connected to the darkness. And it's not like the darkness, you know. We're not, you know, the point of understanding ourselves and understanding what darkness is not so that we can run away from it or fear it. And it has nothing, like the unilluminated darkness, and that's not the light shine on the darkness. It's the mind being able to go into the space and sit with that darkness. That's the unilluminated darkness, is someone trying to shine the light on it and make it go away. And when we allow ourselves to be in that subconscious space, in that place where we're sitting in, what is this underworld? What is this underworld to us? What is the underworld within us? You know, who are we really? And it's not like, who, you know, it's not always what are all the bad parts about me. It's what are all these parts of myself that are hidden and shadowed and disconnected. And it's not even necessarily in a sense where it's like, oh, they're bad, or oh, these need to be rooted out. You in the instance of only light, you would be completely blinded at all times. You would not be able to even function. You know, it's, if you're just seeing light, there needs to be the darkness and the light. And it's funny because, you know, in the Egyptian culture, they would talk about how Apep was going to eat the sun, and the brothers, the Typhon and Apep, were going to eat the sun, and you know, when you're looking at the black sun and all that stuff, the different differentiations between physical material sun and the sun that exists in astral space, and it's not, you know, they're swallowing the light. Like the underworld will always take over, and it's one of those things that just that makes me laugh, because it's like, you know, you can't and yes, like the sun's going to explode someday, like eventually it's going to happen, and there's going to be darkness here for a time, and then it's, you know, there's going to be more suns, and there's going to be, you know, but it's not it's not in a way where it's like nothing's ever going to exist again. Nothing. It's just going to be underworld all the time, because it's, you know, even a abyssal work, it's not that way. It doesn't even, that kind of concept doesn't even make sense in the abyss, even though there's only darkness. So that's, I'm just saying that because it's funny that you were talking about that stuff, because I wasn't even thinking about the underworld aspect of, like, you know, how people perceived it, because it's more than just the darkness on the planet, like when the sun is on the other side of the earth, it's the darkness that is all permeating.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Oh, there was something yeah, I was thinking about you can't have the light without the dark. Um it's the same with like plants. You have to put the seeds into a dark space under the earth in order to allow them to grow and bloom, and you need to allow the cycle of release and renewal each year for a lot of these plants. I know some plants don't need that, but for many plants there's a cycle. And there's a similar with gestation, with pregnancy. It would harm the fetus to be exposed to light. Even in premature babies, they have to cover the eyes because it can cause severe damage to be exposed to light. So it's a necessary part of the cycle. And I think it's funny that what in our culture, at least, we bury our dead beneath the earth. It's like you came from darkness, and to the darkness you will return. In other cultures, it's not quite the same. I know there's like I can't remember the culture where they lay their dead out on the sky towers and allow the vultures to carry. They believe the vultures imbibe and carry the souls, and so they can soar into the afterlife. And there's many other cultures that have similar belief to that. But I think the underworld is a part of the cycle of, you know, you came from darkness and you're going to return to the darkness. So I think it's a really beautiful thing. And I think it's funny how I evolved from, I was so terrified of that as a teenager, and in my 20s I was absolutely terrified of that underworld perception. And this is coming from someone who was obsessed with the story of Persephone, of Kor and Hades, and the abduction of Persephone. I was absolutely obsessed with that for a period in my teens, and yet I was still just petrified by this dark space that I believed was like scary and cold and isolating. But then as I came into my 30s, and now, you know, I'm entering, I've entered into my 40s, I kind of revisited that after some time and realized it's actually a beautiful thing. It's a very safe and comforting space, almost like being buried beneath your blankets on a cold winter night or something like that, where it's the safety of the dark. It has, my perception has changed as I've gotten older and had experiences, and I think that's something that also led me to death work, was that the perception changed and the realization that it's actually the natural process is beautiful. And with my own, I had a near death experience that kind of led to the fear in the first place, but then it over time healed, and that was in my teens that I had my NDE. But over time I healed and realized that that's actually, I was allowed to see something beautiful, and it actually healed my fear. So
yeah, and it's funny because, like, you know, if you look at the story of Persephone, especially, it's like she's being forced to go down into the underworld. Like she doesn't have a choice, But then you look at like the story of Inanna, which is much earlier, and she's choosing to rip apart her, take away all the worldly possessions and worldly things that she has physically. She goes down completely naked, bearing the ego, but she does it willingly. And if you look at like yourself as a teenager, where it's like you were afraid of the underworld, but if you were forced to go down there, you would have had no choice, which is what happened.
Yeah.
And then it's like as an adult, you got into Inanna, and it's funny because it's like she, she chose to go to the underworld. So it's that, and she's much older.
Yeah.
In that story, she's not young.
She's not a maiden. She's married with children,
and she's going because of the, anyways.
Well, hey, Arishka Gal, I killed your husband and now I'm here. So there's the belief that perhaps she was trying to take over, and she wanted to be, the goddess of both the overworld and the underworld, but it wasn't something that was possible.
Well, and Inanna was the goddess of both love and war at the same time.
Much like Aphrodite.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's funny. I think that Lilith and Inanna are well, I mean, they're intrinsically intertwined. They may even be the same being. I believe they are because of my own experience with working with Lilith, and then just kind of, it just, I don't know how to even explain it. It was just suddenly that it was Inanna, and I was working with Inanna, and now, the handover, but it's interesting how, when you really look into it, it seems like it's faces of the same goddess almost.
Well, it is. It's, Lilith is a very ancient being that is there's an ancient being within there that just wears masks of many other beings. And it's not like that being is falsifying themselves. They're just allowing people to see aspects of that entity through all these different masks. I mean, all deities are that way, But it's interesting to see how many correlations there are to Lilith with especially female deities, female goddesses. And it's like you'll see parts, and in Kabbalah and Jewish mysticism, they call it Parsifim, which are the faces of God. I mean, technically, we are all masks of godhood. We are all faces of the true God Most High, the entity that is, the energy that is all of us, that is the true, highest self of us all as one. But Lilith is different because she operates out of the abyss. And they even say that, Mark even talks about the fact that Lilith is a consort of God Most High. So that means she is separate from the eternal all of all beings. Which, if you're looking at abyssal work, she is the abyss. Yeah. And she is the gatekeeper. She is the gatekeeper. She is the key, and she is it itself. None shall pass unto which it must be her. So it's like in reality, there's a lot of connection between the separation of light and dark, but while they're also conjoined at the same time, they can't exist without one another. Material can't exist without one another.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's interesting because with Santa Muerte, there's a similar of, not similar, I suppose, but like she is the end. Like she not only of humans, but she's the end of gods. Like, she wants to be the only one, I suppose. And that's why when you have an altar to Santa Marta, you have to place her statue above any other statue that may reside in the home or in the space. But she comes for humans and goddesses alike, and she's the psychopomp. But in the end, the Santa Muerte is going to be the only one left. She's kind of like, there's that image of death turning out the lights to the universe and locking the door behind her as she leaves, because she's the only one left. So it's funny because there's a similar aspects of being the entirety and kind of drawing everyone in and through in Lilith as well as Santa Marte. Yeah. So it's funny how it all kind of interweaves together.
It's like threading the needle with different thread.
Yeah.
And
I mean, they're all very distinct. I wouldn't say all gods are one and all goddesses are one, but there's so many similarities in those stories.
Well, I mean, I just mean in like the grand scheme of all of it. Yeah, we're all the same being.
Yeah. In the grand scheme, like I was talking about, I think in maybe a first or second episode of there was Source, and Source was lonely and had no experiences and wanted those experiences, and so it split itself into a million billion different lives to experience what could be.
Yeah. What cards did you draw? You're using the Goetic deck, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm using the Tarot in Darkness Goetia.
Yeah, I love that deck.
It's actually, it became one of my favorite deck. I used to carry this in my purse all the time. I got the Moon, which in this deck is connected with Nibirius. The Sun, which is connected with Vine. And then the Two of Wands, which is connected with Phalanx. I think that's very interesting because it's talking about the moon is connected to the underworld. It's the hidden, and it's the delving into what is hidden. I think a lot of times people think that it's sneakiness. It's something that's hiding away, but in reality, this is the connection to the moon. It's the connection to the underworld, the psyche, and it's the revelation, the revealing. If you look at the surface of the water in this card, yes, you're going to see a reflection, but when you look into it, you're going to see through that reflection. And then with the sun, that's the brightness and the light and bringing light to the situation. So it is very much talking about revealing what's hidden. And in this deck, it's actually an eclipse on the sun card.
It's kind of like the black sun.
Yeah, it's the black sun. And all three of these cards have kind of like that eclipse almost look, like with the...
Even with the moon. The
moon, it's the crescent, which you can't have an eclipse with a full moon. It's going into the dark moon, and then with the sun, it's the black sun, and that revelation. And then in the Two of Wands, that's about connecting maybe the past with a present, like connecting those experiences and cycling back and creating something new out of those experiences. And Phalanx is, I always think of the phoenix with this one. And even on this card, it almost looks like an eye centered in between the wings. So it's kind of like it draws you back to like black sun almost looking thing, and then with the phoenix, it's the rebirth of the burning into ash, and then once the burning is over, there's something new coming out of it. So I think it's a very good reading to go along with this episode. It feels good.
Well, I think we're going to call it there. If you enjoyed this, you can like it. If you really enjoyed this and you want more, we have, this is episode 6, I think. It's episode
started.
6. Yeah. So you can subscribe for more or check out previous videos if you're finding this as your first one. Mm-hmm. We're on YouTube, which is where our in our bio of YouTube has all of our links, and they should be down below on Spotify, Amazon, and Apple Podcasts. And those should be below as well. We have links to our Etsy's, links to my website, and and any other information that's pertinent at any time. Mm-hmm. So if you enjoy this, we do these every Monday and Friday around 2 Pacific time. So yeah, I think I covered all the bases again. I think I got it. I think I nailed it.
Don't ask questions.
Ask questions.
And be curious.
Be curious and ask questions. Yep. We are willing to answer questions. We love seeing people's comments. We love enjoying that. So, So to end, of course, the darkness in me sees and honors the darkness in you. This has been the Doubles Podcast. Thank you.